Martha Burke, Dee Dee Feldman, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. We wanted to start off covering the basics of this. I feel like for a lot of folks, Project 2025 has been reduced to a yard sign or a social media hashtag. So what is Project 2025? Who wrote it? And why is it so controversial? Martha, let's start with you.
Well, who wrote it? The Heritage Foundation, one of the oldest and more vicious so-called think tanks in the country, very conservative. They basically, in my view, this latest Project 2025 is their manifesto. It is, by the way, populated by many people that were in the Trump administration are now in Heritage. And I have to say as an aside that 2/3 of them are men, about 1/3 are women. They have fewer women. But it is a manifesto to dismantle the government, basically. They want to do away with any guardrails. They want to basically install the president as a dictator, with their help, of course, because depending on who is in that chair, they might need a lot of help intellectually.
You know, one of the things that I read about it, even before I read the document itself, was that the last time a conservative administration, namely the Trump administration, came into power, they didn't have knowledge of the bureaucracy. They didn't have their people in the Justice Department or in any of the key posts. They were kind of at a loss as to how to run the government and put their program into action. So this document, Project 2025, was deemed as sort of a recruiting tool and a transition tool, so that that Trump would have a operating manual once he got into power, and wouldn't just be playing things off the cuff.
And so that we're clear, I want to just pick up on something that Martha said. Of the authors of Project 2025, 6 of them are former Trump staffers. 150 former Trump staffers are mentioned in the document. Mm-hmm. So interestingly, in the last handful of weeks in particular, Trump's been all over the place on this. One moment he's like, that thing looks great. And then if he's sitting down for an interview, he's like, I don't know who did that. You know, it's kind of like the kid who spills the milk on the carpet and then runs away and says, I don't know who did that. And just in the last week, they've said, we want to create a situation where none of these Project 2025 folks would be in our administration. Dee Dee, why would Trump want to run away from a document like this?
Well, he's getting flack for it because people are reading it. People are realizing that this is a doomsday scenario for the United States in terms of all kinds of policies. You know, Trump has his rallies, and at his rallies he advocates all of the policies that are in 2025, and then the Project 2025 is the chapter and verse for his rallies as to how to, deport millions of people who are here illegally, allegedly. And how to dismantle the EPA, how to drill, baby, drill. Project 2025 doesn't have all the exclamation points and language like magnificent and the best, but it fills in the blanks as to Trump's declarations at his rallies.
Is it a little bit of a quiet part out loud thing, Martha?
Well, I think it is, because he's only disavowing it until he gets elected. And then he's going to probably embrace it. I mean, he's already doing that, as Dee Dee said, but it's in a little bit different way. He's trying to support the ideas without saying that he really is on board with these people. He's saying he doesn't even know these people.
Totally.
Some of them were in his administration.
Peter Navarro.
Yeah, he doesn't know them.
Ben Carson.
It's a typical Trump thing. He's got to have it one way, and different audience to have it another way. It's okay to lie, he's done it all his life. Mm-hmm. And I think it's clear that he would go along with. I mean, they wrote it for him.
I want to stick with you for just a second. The official title of this document is Mandate for Leadership, the Conservative Promise. It's not unlike the Heritage Foundation to cook up documents like this. Why do you think there's been so much concern and heat this time around?
Well, I think the concern is that they are all people that are very close to Trump. If he wins, he's going to march to their tune if he's still sane, which is a question in my mind right now. But it's much more blatant than anything they have put on paper before. They've always had sort of the pseudo-intellectual conservatism in their policies. Now, no, we're going to dismantle the Department of Education. We're going to totally outlaw abortion, and on down the list. So it's much more raw, if you will, and I guess that's so Trump can understand it. I don't
It's
know.
a 960-page document.
And keep in mind that in 2020, when Trump ran before, there was no platform even. And the platform that exists this time is pretty sketchy. I mean, there's really no there.
Yeah.
It's all generalities, and it's much more like a Trump rally than this. So for a long time, there was nothing out there but Project 2025. And so people were actually reading it to find out the stance of the Republican Party and of Trump on many of these issues, because there was no other place to find out.
Yeah. I've got a couple of minutes left in this segment, and I want to pick up on something you just said. So we invited the New Mexico GOP to send someone to participate in this conversation we're having today. They declined, citing the framing of this discussion that we're having. They also sent us a copy of something called Agenda 47 and said it was Trump's true platform. We looked through that 16-page document and found it to be pretty hollow. No numbers, no data, no real political stances, mainly rhetorical. Should the American people believe that that's the plan, or that Project 2025 is the plan?
Well, Project 2025 is the meat and potatoes of the very sketchy document that is now being used as the platform. And if you actually look at them back to back, and I did do that, you find that basically they are the same, except the platform doesn't go into detail, but Project 2025 does go into detail. And that's why I think the Republican Party is a little afraid of people reading what's in there. They'd rather just go with the rhetoric. Thank you.
It's kind of a hand-in-glove situation, right? Where the undefined portions of the platform are defined in this other space.
It's pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Well said, Martha. That's where we're gonna leave the first part of the discussion. We'll be back to talk a little bit about specifics and how this is going to impact our state if we see it happen.